You're listening to the No Bullshit Vegan Podcast, episode 154. Dr. Leigh Ettinger is on the show to discuss the benefits of the plant-based diet in several contexts, including pediatric obesity and endurance cycling.
Welcome to the No Bullshit Vegan Podcast, myth-busting and evidence-based advice to help you kick butt with your health and fitness on a vegan diet. Here's your host, Karina Inkster.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Karina, your go-to, no BS, vegan, fitness, and nutrition coach. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If you haven't yet checked out our collection of awesome and free vegan resources, including a vegan-specific portion guide, a protein calculator, ebooks, restaurant guides, and more, head to karinainkster.com/resources. That's karinainkster.com/resources. I'm honored to have Dr. Leigh Ettinger join me on the show today. Dr. Ettinger has been a medical doctor since 1998, but did not learn about the plant-based diet until 2014. He made changes in his own eating and quickly saw the benefits. He's earned a certificate in plant-based nutrition from eCornell and is now board certified in obesity medicine. He enjoys helping families successfully change course to a plant-strong path for their health, for the animals, for social justice, and for the environment. Leigh's favorite vegan meal is oatmeal, and that's something we discuss in greater detail in our conversation. Hi, Leigh. Thank you so much for coming on the show and speaking with me today.
Hi, Karina. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with a little background story. So I'd love to hear about how you came to veganism and how you came to do what you do career-wise.
Okay, sure.
I know it's kind of a loaded question, but a couple of points would be awesome.
How much time do we have? So I'm a doctor. And I was been a doctor since 1998, and it wasn't until I didn't learn about actually the plant-based diet first in 2014. I enjoy cycling, and was watching my cycling videos on YouTube, and a video from Dorian Ryder came up. Do you know Dorian Ryder?
Yes, yeah, for sure.
So yeah, really a funny video came up. I was watching it, and it was stuff cyclists say. It was all these inside jokes about cycling, and I thought it was very good, and I wanted to see what other comedy kind of content he had about cycling. And I'm looking, and the next video I watch, he's talking about a banana that he says that when you're going out on your bike ride, and I'm an avid cyclist. I've been an avid cyclist for a long time. So he was saying when you are going out on a bike ride, take the brown spotty banana. That's the banana that's full of sugar to give you energy on the ride. If you take a yellow banana and eat the yellow banana, that's very starchy, not very sugary. You're not going to get the energy from that banana until you're sitting on the couch after the ride. So I had never really thought about that. I'd always grab the yellow banana. So I started taking the brown spotty bananas and getting the sugar for my riding. And then looked at more content, and it turns out that he's vegan, and he's talking about the animals, and he's talking about the environment, and he's talking about how he eats in order to fuel his cycling. And I'm like, let me try it out. Initially, it was for very selfish reasons that I just wanted to bike faster. I was looking for legal and ethical ways to improve my cycling. And so started to make some changes in my diet, and then started also to look at the more scientific literature, at the books I first found Dr. McDougall and the Starch Solution, books by Dr. Esselstyn and videos by Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. Kempel, and really started to embrace this way of eating, and saw some changes pretty quickly in my own health and my cycling. And then learning more about animal welfare and environmental issues really helped it stick for me.
Interesting. So how did the vegan piece and the doctor piece collide? So your website is drherbivore.com. I love that name and the URL, by the way. But how did those two things come together? Veganism came later in this trajectory, and now you've combined them.
Yeah, so I was working at a pediatric nephrologist, so I was taking care of kids with kidney disease in a major medical center in northern New Jersey. And local pediatricians would refer me patients with high blood pressure, because in the pediatric age group, high blood pressure can often be a sign of kidney disease. So we working with families, I'd rule out kidney disease and heart disease and hormone disease, and really start to look at their diet and lifestyle, and be sitting there with a child with a large body mass index, with family history, diabetes and hypertension and obesity, and started to talk to them about dietary changes that I was learning about my own blood pressure lowered when I went plant-based, and was really having some good success actually getting kids off of medicine, the blood pressure medicines, or not having to start blood pressure medicines. And it was interesting and very satisfying to me because when I would prescribe medicines for someone's blood pressure, no one really would say thank you. They'd be like, oh, like, how long do I have to take this? Do I have to take this for the rest of my life? Or, however, when I would show someone the dietary and lifestyle changes that would help them reduce their blood pressure, they'd come back and be able to stop their medicines, and they'd be like, thank you. That's when they were very appreciative. So that was very professionally satisfying for me to have that feedback from the families, that I was giving them the tools to go ahead and lead healthier lives. So I got the eCornell certificate in plant-based nutrition, and also helping my patients lose weight with the plant-based diet. I got board certified in obesity medicine, and I joined, my hospital had a pediatric weight management practice clinic and other kind of a program, for an evening program for families that were struggling with weight issues. So I joined that, and working with the dietitians there and the other experts, trying to help families with pediatric obesity, which is a big problem in northern New Jersey and as well as elsewhere. And then the pandemic hit, and my hospital quickly pivoted to telemedicine. And so I was doing the pediatric kidney disease and the pediatric obesity online like this, and decided that I can take the parts of my practice that I enjoy and really reach out across the whole state, reach out to more families. And the families are really enjoying it. It's very convenient for them. They don't have to drive to the doctor. They don't have to sit in the waiting room and perhaps be exposed to other infectious diseases. So I decided in the summer of 2021 to leave, and found the Dr. Herbivore practice, which is a telehealth practice. I'm licensed in New York and New Jersey, trying to help families that want to embrace the plant-based diet. So kind of a dual aspect of families that are already looking to raise their child vegan or vegetarian and kind of want to make sure they do it right. They talk to the pediatrician. The pediatrician says, oh, you have to have milk, or where do you get your protein? So I want to be a resource to those families who maybe can't get the information from their own pediatrician. So I have evidence-based information. They can work with me on telehealth. And then also with families that are struggling with obesity, I think the plant-based diet is great for helping families, helping people lose weight. I lost 20 pounds myself going plant-based, and I've seen it really benefit a lot of people. So the second aspect of the practice is to help families that are struggling with pediatric obesity adopt a more plant-based diet, plant-strong diet, and get healthier, improve wellness, not necessarily focusing on the scale, but to improve wellness and lowering risk factors for health problems associated with obesity. So I chose the name Dr. Herbivore because when I was trying to do all this in the hospital setting, I'd bring up the plant-based diet, and honestly, a lot of families were initially turned off by it. They're like, well, what are you talking about? And, my pediatrician says I need to drink milk, or it just was such a surprise and such a shock to some families. Other families were like, oh yeah, we're starting to hear about that, or oh, we have a vegan in our family. Certainly if there were any kind of background I could work with, that was helpful, but some families were initially turned off by that. So I wanted to name my practice as some kind of indication that that's what you are getting, this Dr. Herbivore, so that you would know you would be getting, if you're working with me, a more plant-forward, a plant-strong way of eating.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. That makes complete sense. It's like expectation management before your patients start working with you. That's genius.
Yes. Very good.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, very cool. Thank you for sharing. And so I have many thoughts going through my brain right now around what you said about how folks at the hospital, saw the plant-based diet. Some of them seem to be already on the plant-based, train somewhere, like, oh yeah, I've heard about that. Or, oh yeah, I have a family member who's into it. But it seems like there was a lot of resistance there. And I would assume that having something like Dr. Herbivore now, you're finding folks who are specifically looking for the services that you offer versus just bringing up plant-based eating randomly to patients at a hospital, right?
Right, exactly. I was trying to feel out one family, and the mom was sitting there scowling at me, and I was a little bit off put by that. So I actually called her up a few days later. This was a child I was seeing for high blood pressure, kind of feeling out if they would be interested in learning more about the plant-based diet. And so I called her up a few days later. I was like, oh, did you have any questions about what we were talking about? And she was like, you vegetarians, you're in a cult, and you can do whatever you want, but don't try to force your views on my family. So I was like, okay, well, thanks a lot. Still happy to help with the hypertension in other ways, but thank you for letting me know. And
Oh my
never
goodness.
saw them again. But yeah, certainly it does help with expectations.
Absolutely. So I want to ask about some specific nutrients and, general things that parents might be concerned about when it comes to plant-based kids. First of all, though, you're working in pediatric obesity. So what are some of the specific benefits of the plant-based diet in this world? And then we'll branch out a little bit after that and just talk about children's nutrition in general.
I really like the plant-based diet because it's so clear as to what you're eating and what you're not eating. So many of the diet messages these days for weight loss are portion control or moderation or eating a balanced diet. And those are very vague concepts for people. And what might mean moderation for one person doesn't mean the same for another. Like you could have a guy say, oh, I only drink a soda once a month. I'm practicing moderation. Another guy says, oh, I'm only drinking a soda once a day. I'm practicing moderation, or once a week. And they're all right, but they're also all wrong. So the clear thing about the plant-based way of eating is that you're eating the plants and not the animals. It's really not debatable. And it's a very clear message. I mean, it's a little bit harder these days. So I went plant-based in 2014, and since then there's been a very big industry developed around plant-based junk food, and so it's a little bit harder to kind of use that fine line as a key indicator of what's healthy and what's not healthy. But in general, the whole foods and the plants are going to be what's healthier. So I like that message that it is so clear. And the other message that I like is that it really doesn't require the feeling of being deprived, in that you can fill up on these whole plants. You can fill up on these high fiber, high water content foods that can really satisfy our mind's hunger. In that, we've been wandering this planet for hundreds of thousands of years looking for food, and it's only in the last 100 years that just calories are so easily accessible. And so the reward centers of our brain are still tuned to seeking out calories. So that can make it hard when there's calories all around to not eat them. Our brain thinks it's doing the right thing by eating all these calories to prepare for any upcoming shortage of calories, but that shortage isn't coming. So our brain thinks it's doing the right thing, but it's become problematic to eat all these calories. But if you can fill up the stomach with these high fiber, high water content foods that are low calorie, then the brain can be satisfied. Say, okay, I'm full. I don't need to go hunting for more calories. So that can be very reassuring to the brain and help with this way of eating. And then the other thing that I like about it is that when we're working with someone, working with the family, we really don't have to focus on the diet or on the scale. We can talk about other things that might be important to the child or the family that can help support their decision to eat this way. For example, a lot of the kids today are worried about the environment, for example. So I had a young lady who was cleaning up her parks on the weekend, local parks. And I said, well, it's great that you're acting locally, but let's think globally about how our food choices affect our carbon footprint and resource use and wastage. And so working with her, again, we don't have to be talking about what's happening on the scale. We could talk about how the plant-based diet, plant-based eating is more environmentally friendly, or animal welfare, which is another important issue for a lot of people. My own daughters were in elementary school when my family transitioned to a plant-based diet. And just in talking to them, they're like, oh, we don't have to eat the cute animals. That's great, good for this way of eating. And it was kind of easy for them. And again, not having to talk about they don't have it, they didn't have, and they don't have a weight issue. But for someone who does, just focusing on perhaps the animal welfare, if that's important to them, then all the better.
Right. I love that. We're in our practice with nutrition and fitness all about not focusing on the scale and non-scale wins. And, sure, some folks have fat loss as a goal, but if we're not focusing on that as the only reason someone's looking at their diet or the only reason someone's going to start training, it's kind of a side benefit to other things. And what you just mentioned about the environment and ethics and animal agriculture in general are generally things that keep people vegan long term. Whereas just a quick fix weight loss, like let me go vegan for 30 days and see if I can lose 10 pounds, generally doesn't last. It's not going to turn someone into a lifelong vegan 9 times out of 10. So I like the focus on things other than weight, even though there are some health things and maybe some weight things too to work on. It doesn't have to be the focus. It doesn't have to be like the obsession and the reason that we're doing this. So I really like that. I appreciate the branching out from the weight outlook.
Right. And also the teens that are really plugged into social media, it's nice to find resources, whether it's a documentary or an influencer that they're interested in, or music or athlete or a political person, someone out there who they can aspire to or follow, or that can help, rather than me sitting there saying, oh, you need to lower your blood pressure to reduce your risk of a heart attack in 40 years. That's a very abstract concept for a teenager. But if we can let's look at what Billie Eilish is posting about these days. She's a very outspoken vegan. So things like that are more present for the teenager who developmentally is more thinking about the here and now.
That's a great point. Man, you have to be so plugged into what all the kids are watching and listening to. I have no idea. I feel real old when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, it's constantly changing too.
Good point, yeah. So there's some parents who are concerned about feeding their children, especially young ones, a fully plant-based diet, even if they're plant-based themselves. Sometimes people decide to start a family, they have a kid, and they're like, oh, well, we're vegan. Should the kid be vegan? So what are some things that you tell folks generally on a more zoomed out scale when they're concerned about things like nutrient deficiencies or the never-ending protein question? When there's some concern either from parents themselves or from family members who see that a kid is growing up vegan, what are some things that you point them toward or tell them to alleviate some of these concerns?
Right. I'm really a big fan of the program Chronometer, which is a free online program where you can plug in a food diary for the day. And it gives an analysis of the macronutrients, the calories, and 82 micronutrients. And so it's really nice to go over that with a family. And actually, they're often surprised as to how much extra stuff the kids are getting on the standard American diet, or even a well-planned plant-based diet. It gives you a percentage of the essential amino acids, the 9 amino acids that we need, that we can't make ourselves. And without much fuss, people are getting 150%, 200% of the essential amino acids they need each day. So that can be very reassuring. There's a very nice kind of color-coded handout or printout from the screen that it's nice to show families and reassure them, so that when grandparent or pediatrician is questioning their choices, it's nice to say, well, look, we know that Junior is getting 200% of these essential amino acids. He's going to do just fine with this way of eating. So that's a way to handle the protein question with facts and data.
That's a great point. I think a lot of folks can probably use that even just, without thinking about children, just themselves, like where am I at with amino acids and overall calories and fiber, which is huge. Most
Yes.
of the population, isn't it like 97% of the American population is deficient in fiber, technically? So, that would be a useful exercise.
I'm happy to say I'm in the top 3% of the U.S. population for fiber intake.
Excellent.
A+.
A+. Me too. I'm in Canada, but I think that stat probably is all across North America.
Yeah. Everyone's so worried about protein, but fiber is the real superfood that we need to be getting more of. That's the deficiency that's running rampant in the country.
Absolutely. So what about hypertension? You've mentioned this a couple times, patients, children even coming in with either markers or already having hypertension. What are some of the specific benefits of eating vegan for hypertension?
I'd see children with already heart changes from high blood pressure. So the heart is a muscle. And part of the evaluation when I would meet someone with high blood pressure is to get an echocardiogram, a picture of the heart. So those numbers that you see on the cuff is the heart kind of lifting weights. And when the heart is pushing those high numbers all day and all night, for months or years, like your arm will get bigger when you're lifting heavy weights. Your heart muscle will get bigger. You want your arm muscles to be big, or maybe not, but you want a nice muscular body, right? But you don't want a very muscular heart. A thickened heart muscle needs more oxygen, needs more nutrients, and has been shown to be a risk factor for an early heart attack. So you don't want that thickened heart muscle. And I was seeing that in some kids with high blood pressure. They had already had high enough blood pressure for long enough that their heart was changing.
Wow.
So what are the benefits of the plant-based diet? So there's a lot of studies in the adult literature about the benefits of the plant-based diet. Mostly it's that it's a low sodium diet. So you can think that farm animals, the herbivores that are on the farm, get a salt lick because their plants that they're eating don't have enough salt. There's just not a lot of sodium in plants. And so the herbivores get a salt lick. In the wild, they might lick rocks or dry riverbeds. So when you're eating plants, you're just automatically getting a very low sodium diet. The carnivores don't need a salt lick because they're eating the herbivores. They're eating the muscle of the plant-eating animal where the salt has been stored. And so if a human is eating meat, then they're getting the meat that the herbivore gathered. And it's automatically a higher salt diet. And then not even including all the processed meats and the processed foods that add even more sodium. So when you're going and switching to a plant-based diet, it's really already a very low salt diet. And it's been known since the 1830s that sodium will raise blood pressure. And we're eating so much salt on the standard American diet that there have been studies that show that lowering the salt improves your longevity, improves your cardiovascular system, improves your heart attack risk. So just eating plant-based, eating more like an herbivore automatically gets you a lower sodium diet, which is associated with better heart health.
This is, of course, assuming you're not just sitting around eating chips all day, which are vegan.
Yeah, that's right. We hope that it's not the junk food vegan that is eating all that sodium in the processed food. So more whole plants, fruits, vegetables, legumes, starches, whole grains. Those are the kind of salt-free foods that can really lower your salt intake over the course of the day. Loading up on highly processed foods is not going to give you that same benefit.
Right. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with chips, for example, but if that's all you're eating and you're trying to affect change from a health perspective, probably not the greatest setup there. So what about athletic performance? A lot of people are going into like plant-based eating specifically for athletic performance.
Yeah, can I just go back to the chips?
Sure, yeah.
In that it's not just the chips and the soups. Cereal, breakfast cereal, has a tremendous amount of sodium. So, I mean, look at all the hidden. That's the nice thing of the Chronometer app, is that it can really tell you about where all the hidden sources of sodium are. So you can just about assume that whenever you're opening a package of just about anything, you're getting a big load of sodium, a big salt bolus into your body. It's a preservative, it's a flavor, and it's really everywhere in our standard American diet, or even, as you pointed out, the standard vegan diet, that if you're eating a lot of the processed foods. So just be wary of the salt is what I say. Now, you want to talk about, if you have any questions about that, or you want to talk about athleticism, I'm happy to move on.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So we had a huge influx of new clients around the time the Game Changers documentary came out. And so a lot of folks nowadays are making the change to either a more plant-based diet or an exclusively plant-based diet, specifically for athletic performance. So, it's something I think about. I went vegan 20 years ago for just ethical reasons, but since then it's evolved to the environment and personal health and also athletic performance. But as a cyclist, you've probably noticed performance changes, performance benefits. So, what's the deal with the plant-based diet and how it supports endurance athletes like yourself?
Yes, I was thrilled about the game changers, especially as a cyclist. There's a cyclist featured in that movie, so I was all cheering for that. But yeah, it really helps endurance athletes like cyclists and runners. One thing that I noticed was just improved recovery, that after a long and difficult, challenging bike ride, I'd be ready to go again the next day. And that is just increases my enjoyment of the sport. But also, I've been able to show and document on Strava. Are you familiar with Strava?
Yes, I'm on Strava. I log my swims on there.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So it's really nice that with Strava, I've been able to see improvements in my own cycling. And it's actually funny. I talked about this in another interview on YouTube. Some of the cycling benefits. And it was an hour interview. And in the comments section, people were criticizing this thing or that thing, I would say, about nutrition, but no one disparaged my cycling. So that would have really hurt my feelings if they did that. But I can share with you I can share with you the improvements that I saw with my own cycling. It's really it's such a great high carbohydrate diet that you just feel like you have energy each and every day. And I think that's really good to feel energized by all the complex carbohydrates that we eat. So one benefit that I noticed was that I did a 4-mile uphill last summer that I had done when I was 43. So I just turned 50 last summer, and my 50-year-old self beat my 43-year-old self by 2 minutes on a 21-minute climb.
Wow.
And so that's a 10% improve. Yeah, and at the same weight. It's not like I had lost a whole bunch of weight and was able to go. I was at the same weight. So that just goes to show that my cardiovascular system improved, my muscular system improved. And Lance Armstrong is famous for saying that the doping that he did gave him a 10% improvement in his cycling performance. So I like to, they say that plant-based is like the new doping. Yeah, I can show that it gave me over 7 years of eating this way and training 10% improvement in my performance over that 20-minute climb uphill. And if I had done doping, I could have gotten that 10% improvement maybe in a few months or a year. But plant-based and consistency got me that improvement over 7 years. And then, so that was very satisfying. Then another thing that I did last summer was a 6-day bike trip in the Pyrenees. So these are the mountains that are used in the Tour de France. And I was able to enjoy 6 fun days going over the same mountains that they use as routes in the Tour de France. And I really wanted to challenge myself on a climb called the Col de Tourmalet, which features frequently in the Tour de France. It wasn't in last year's Tour de France, but it's going to be in this year's Tour de France. And it's one of the bicycling magazine rated it as one of the top 30 challenging climbs in the world. And I wanted to go up that hill, that 9-mile uphill, as fast as possible. I really wanted to challenge myself as a 50-year-old. And I'm really happy to say that I went up in 1 hour and 13 minutes. And for my age group, among the 50-year-olds, Strava's been going on since 2009. So comparing myself to all the other 50-year-olds who went up since then, I placed around 700th out of 10,000 people. So in the top percentiles compared to all these other people. And that really felt good. That was like my season goal. I really wanted to go hard, and I just totally went as hard as I could. If it's abstract to think about biking up a mountain, what I did was I kept my average heart rate. I look back, my average heart rate for the hour and 13 minutes was 160. So that's like 85% of my maximum heart rate. And so for listeners out there who can't think about biking up a mountain, just think about maintaining a heart rate at 85% of your maximum for an hour and 13 minutes. That's what it took. And I really think that I credit the plant-based diet for allowing me to train and allowing me to do that extreme effort as a 50-year-old. So that felt really great, and it was an amazing experience. I saw a rainbow when I was on. We actually, going up that mountain, we went out of this mist, and looking down, there was a rainbow, and I saw a llama. There was just a random llama. But I just a magical kind of experience while my legs are burning, my heart rate's burning, my lungs are burning, just for an hour and 13 minutes, and it was very magical, almost spiritual experience. Getting to the top and looking down over the Pyrenees. So I credit and thank the plant-based diet for making that possible.
That's incredible. Kicking your 43-year-old self's ass at the age of 50 is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that was cool. That felt good. Thank you, plant-based diet.
Yay, thank you, plant-based diet. Yeah, so there's some research now into why this might be the case. I think there's a lot of antioxidants in the plant-based diet. We're not eating as many pro-inflammatory ingredients as folks do when they eat animal products. What else, if anything, is the magic sauce in the vegan diet? It's not just the fact that we're not eating dairy. I think there's things inherent in plants that might be helping us when it comes to athletic performance.
Right, all the phytonutrients and the antioxidants, polyphenols, all the vitamins and minerals. It's just so nutritionally great way of eating. I take a vitamin B12 supplement, and a vitamin D supplement in the winter, like everyone probably should in this hemisphere. But that's all I really need is that and my plants. So it's really very complete. And just another, cycling makes you so hungry. Any kind of endurance sport like that just makes you so hungry that just filling up on the plants gives me everything that my body needs to fuel those adventures. That's what cycling is, really a great adventure.
That's an awesome way of looking at it. That's how I see my swimming, except unfortunately the open water season here on the West Coast is so short. The water is about 50 degrees at all times. So it has to be warm enough outside to be worth it. And I wear a full wetsuit, of course, but I kind of see it as an adventure. It does make me extremely hungry as well. So I need to make sure that I'm fueling before and refueling after. But you're more of an endurance athlete. I lift weights mostly and then swim, but not insanely long distances. But your overall calories for the day must be pretty high, especially if you're training for something.
It's funny to look at the Strava, which gives an estimate of your calorie expenditure, and seeing that I did a ride and burned 3,000 calories, 4,000 calories. That's a good reason why I'm so hungry sometimes. But that's always a surprise. Yeah, actually, in the cycling community, there was like a challenge. People were trying to burn. This was especially during COVID. People were looking for things to do. They were challenging themselves to burn 10,000 calories on a bike ride.
Oh dear.
That was like a goal. Yeah, I never tried that, but the people that were doing it online, you have to kind of go all day and into the night, pretty hard to reach that kind of target. I don't recommend it, but that just kind of like the extreme things that people are doing to keep themselves entertained or challenged during COVID. I enjoy open water swimming too. I was doing some events like open water swims and aquavelos. Have you heard of aquavelos?
Are those the races with biking, like cycling and swimming?
Yeah, it's like a triathlete event. But I've had 5 foot surgeries. I have a fused joint in my foot, so I can't run. So I would start. They would have a category where I would start with the triathletes, do the swim, and then the bike, and then my finish line was the end of the bike leg. So yeah, I was doing a few of those until COVID. Then the pools shut down, and I wasn't able to swim anymore. And I moved also away from any kind of pool that I could train in. But I do miss the swimming. I do enjoy the swimming. It's so like clearing, just to be in the pool, in the water, and not have any distractions.
Absolutely. I don't meditate, but I swim. So that's my mental health practice, especially outside.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't understand people. There are people that buy these devices that they can listen to music or podcasts while they're swimming, and I'm like, no, no, no. I swim to get away from the electronics. I swim
Right.
to.
Exactly.
I don't want that distraction. But yeah, yeah. There's something very very zen about swimming. Just the trying to find the most rhythmical, kind of smoothest path through the water, or the least effort. It's a nice full body experience, and I do miss it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's one of the reasons my husband and I moved to where we live now from Vancouver. We live on the Sunshine Coast of BC because it's so easy access to the ocean. And we have 32 lakes within like a 20-minute drive of our house. So you can just jump in, just beautiful water to swim in.
Nice.
So, yeah, I think it would be a deal breaker for me if I didn't have a pool and didn't have bodies of water to swim in.
Right.
So that
Right.
factored into the decision to live where we do.
Right. I moved to a place with not as good swimming or no swimming, but incredible cycling around here. So, and my wife is also plant-based, also vegan, and she's really into rock climbing. So we got beautiful, world famous rock climbing. I'm in the Shawnigunks, which is if you ask climbers, they'll know about the Shawnigank mountain range for rock climbing. So she's doing a rock climbing, and I'm doing my cycling, and we're enjoying the nature here.
That's brilliant. So, what are some of the programs that you offer? I know you have telehealth for folks in specific areas, and then there's also online courses that anyone can take. So, maybe you can tell our listeners a little bit more about those options.
Thank you. Yeah, I enjoy working with families in New York and New Jersey, where I'm licensed as a medical doctor. But for families that are outside of those states, I do have e-courses because I want to help more people. I want to reach out. These e-courses are part of the programs that when I'm working with a family, they get access to. But for other families who are looking to fine-tune their plant-based experience. So I have 3 of them. One of them is how to transition the family to plant-based eating. So how to make changes in the family, why to make changes in the family, and also specifically things to work on with an elementary school kid, how to talk to your teenager, adolescent. So I'm bringing in the different age groups, and most importantly, how to stick to the plant-based diet. So there are strategies and ways to think about the plant-based eating in the long term so that you can maintain this way of eating for your health goals or your ethical goals, your environmental goals. That's really important. So there's that course. I have a course specifically for pediatric obesity, so how to use the plant-based diet for your family, the hows and whys of reducing calorie intake, again, without having to count anything. It's just mostly crowding out the higher calorie processed foods with the lower calorie, higher fiber, higher water content plants, but strategies to make that happen for a child. And then a third course, which is how to really nourish a plant-based child. And this is for the families that are concerned about this or that macro or micronutrient. It really goes over those nutrients and where they can be obtained on the plant-based diet. And also there's a tutorial in there on how to use the chronometer. There's just a few tutorials online about how to use the chronometer. There's one on using it as a plant-based diet. There's none for plant-based children. So I just really wanted to give families the tools so that they can do the course, spend a few hours watching the videos and doing the reading material, and then have these skills to go ahead and continue to do the plant-based diet and thrive on the plant-based diet. So that's all that's in these courses.
Brilliant. And those are all available on your website, drherbivore.com?
Yes, there's a pull-down tab that'll take you to the e-courses, and you can learn more about them. There's previews and see what is the content and order them there.
Brilliant. I have one more question that I almost forgot about, but it's going back to what you said originally about your journey to what you do now as a career and moving away from the hospital setting that you were in. And it was this whole concept of telling folks that you're vegan and then getting pushback, which happens still with health professionals all the time, not just patients, doctors, dietitians, all these folks who actually are not educated in plant-based nutrition and have preconceived notions about how it works or how it doesn't work. Anyway, so I still feel like there's a lot of work to be done in the medical field in general when it comes to the vegan diet. So what are some things that you as a health professional, as a medical professional, are doing or could do? And what are some things that we as the general public, fitness coaches or not, can do to move those concepts in a more plant-based direction? So right now there's small things, certain hospitals are now offering vegan meals. And, generally I think veganism is more mainstream than it was even 8 years ago. But you've experienced it yourself. There's still a lot of inaccurate information, lots of myths, especially in the medical world. So what are some things that we can all do? Any thoughts on moving this needle in the right direction?
Yeah, I've been trying. So since 2017, I've been giving talks to doctors at Grand Rounds. So Grand Rounds is a program in every hospital has it for the different departments, pediatrics, surgery, things like that. So maybe once a week, they'll have either the whole department get together for either administrative work or have an expert speaker come in. So since 2017, I've been giving pediatric grand rounds around New York and New Jersey about the plant-based diet for kids, whether that is specifically for hypertension or for obesity, or just how to make sure that a family that is raising a plant-based child, that you as the pediatrician or pediatric nurse practitioner are meeting their needs. So, instead of bugging them about protein, make sure that they're getting their B12, things like that. So really want to give them an appreciation for the plant-based diet so that they can work more expertly with the families in their practice who may be asking questions or considering or even totally plant-based already. And I want to help support the pediatrician. So been doing that a lot, especially around New York City. If you've heard of Mayor Eric Adams.
Don't know if I have.
Oh, you got to look into Mayor Eric Adams. So he's been a mayor, I guess, 2 years now. But he had very severe type 2 diabetes. He was starting to lose his vision from his blood sugar. And he went plant-based and lost a lot of weight, improved his vision, got off medicines, and became a big advocate of the plant-based diet, and then became mayor. And he's made a strong push in New York City.
It's ringing a bell.
This is really, he's trying to be a model for other cities. So he's doing things like in the New York hospital systems, the default meals are now plant-based. You have to actually ask for meat to appear on, you have to insist for meat to appear on your tray as an inpatient in New York City hospitals. He's introduced vegan Fridays for the schools. So they were having meatless Mondays, but now he has vegan Fridays, so that school cafeteria lunches on Fridays are now vegan. He's doing work in the prison system also, getting the prisoners healthier meals. So he's doing all this great work. So that was actually kind of my lead-in to approach these hospitals in and around New York City, saying, hey, Mayor Adams is making all these changes. Your families might have questions. I'm an expert on this. Let me come talk to your pediatricians, your residents in training, your community pediatricians. So that's been a great lead-in for me. But that's really what I'm trying to do, is help these doctors that are, we didn't really learn about it in medical school. We didn't learn about nutrition in medical school. I'm not blaming anyone, just saying that it's time to start to get more exposure to this way of eating so that it can be, instead of dismissed or disparaged in the pediatrician's office, that the pediatricians at least can help support families who've made this decision. So that's been my side mission, my side gig, is giving these pediatric grand rounds and talking to community groups also about the plant-based diet that have questions.
That's brilliant. Well, I'm glad I asked because I had no idea you did that. That's very cool. Side gig, very important, educating fellow medical professionals.
Yeah.
So what about us non-medical professionals? What are some things that we can do in the vegan world when it comes to just furthering the message or, getting the idea out there that it actually benefits the general population in a lot of different ways?
I'd like to plug a community, that online community that I'm a moderator for. It's called Whole Communities. It's established by Dr. Campbell at the Center for Nutrition Studies. And it's a community that's about 1.5 years old. And it's like a Facebook group, except A, there's no advertisements, and B, there's no trolls. And so it's a nice online community where people are coming together to help each other. This is not a place for people, say, looking for recipes. We don't talk about recipes. Everyone's pretty much firmly plant-based, and they want to talk about communities. It's called whole communities. How to bring the plant-based message to communities and spread the message. And people will either post questions or post commentaries or post articles. And honored to be a moderator of this group. And it's a nice place to meet and gather and figure out ways to spread the plant-based, spread the vegan message.
Wow, that's brilliant. So how do I join? It sounds amazing.
Yeah, if you search for whole communities, I can give you the link afterwards. You can put it in the show notes. But yeah, there's a little application that you can fill out and then come join us in whole communities. And we can continue the conversation as to how to help bring plant-based to your community.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for speaking with me, Leigh. Any closing thoughts for our listeners as we're finishing up here?
No, thank you very much. Except on your, you always ask your guests what their favorite vegan meal is. I didn't get to ask what my favorite meal is. Can I share?
Oh, yes, you can. I saw it on your guest form, but I did not mention it. Yes, do share.
It's oatmeal. So, I had a moment, thought, right, you survey your guests, and I've noticed you ask this to other guests. And so I had a moment to think about it. I eat oatmeal every day. So that's got to be up on the list, right? So a nice bowl of oatmeal to start my day is my favorite meal. So with maybe blueberries or cranberries, some brown sugar, some chia or hemp seeds or things like that. Keep it interesting, overnight oats. So yeah, I'd have to... I was disappointed that you didn't ask me what my favorite vegan meal is. So I'll have to say, in conclusion, that my favorite meal is oatmeal.
Aw.
That's okay. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I have oatmeal every single morning. It's probably been about 20, maybe 25 years. So I'm with you on the oatmeal for sure. Yeah, I always mention it before I introduce a guest. So it's good to know. Good to know. But so great to speak with you, Leigh. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Karina. This has been a fun.
Leigh, thank you again for taking the time to speak with me. Make sure you check out our show notes at nobullshitvegan.com/154. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to the No Bullshit Vegan podcast at nobullshitvegan.com.